She looked at me, sighed, and said, "You're making this harder than it should be." And just like that, everything changed. Introduce the initial spark of attraction, curiosity, and subtle tension. Set up the young male narrator's perspective, observant, sincere, and slightly hesitant. This opening scene establishes the neighborly connection. The young man notices her for the first time in a casual, seemingly mundane setting, but it leaves a lasting impression. It's the beginning of fascination that will grow into emotional tension. The story begins on an ordinary morning. Perhaps the young man is returning from a run, carrying groceries, or stepping out to retrieve his mail. The apartment hallway is quiet, lit by soft sunlight streaming through a nearby window. He hears a warm, lilting laugh from the apartment next door. Something about it catches his attention. It's effortless, confident, yet with a trace of softness. He hesitates at her door, pretending to check his phone, but he notices her clearly. The way she moves, graceful and self-assured. Yet there's a subtle vulnerability in the way she adjusts her sweater or leans against the doorframe. She's in casual clothes, a cozy sweater and jeans, and yet she carries herself with an elegance that seems natural, unstudied. As their eyes meet, there's a flicker of recognition, a brief pause where the world feels suspended. He notices the small details, the way her hair catches the morning light, the faint scent of something warm and floral lingering in the air, and the gentle curve of her smile that seems both inviting and teasing. His heart beats a little faster, not out of panic, but from a sense of intrigue, a pull he can't quite explain. She hands him a package he didn't even realize she had been holding for him. Their hands brush lightly. It's quick, almost accidental, but the touch lingers in his mind far longer than it did in reality. His fingers tingle from the contact. He catches himself staring just a second too long. She notices, and her expression shifts slightly. Amused, curious, but never mocking. The dialogue is minimal. Perhaps she says, lightly, "You're always in such a hurry," or something equally mundane, but her tone is layered, gentle, slightly playful, and yet there's an unspoken depth. For him, it's a revelation. This is someone who sees more than what's on the surface. Internally, the young man struggles with the mix of emotions: fascination, hesitation, admiration, and a subtle nervousness. He is acutely aware of their age difference but tries to dismiss it as irrelevant in the face of her warmth and authenticity. The scene closes on a lingering glance as she steps back into her apartment, leaving him with a quiet flutter of anticipation and curiosity. The ordinary hallway has suddenly become a space charged with possibility. The audience should feel the slow burn forming, a delicate tension that promises deeper connection while remaining grounded in everyday reality. Build tension through subtle miscommunication, restraint, and growing attraction. Show the young man's nervousness and her gentle teasing, laying the foundation for deeper emotional intimacy. Their interactions increase naturally. Maybe he helps her with a minor task, or they meet again in the hallway or at the mailboxes. However, his overthinking and awkwardness make simple exchanges feel charged, creating a delicate tension. This part deepens the audience's emotional investment. It's a quiet afternoon. Perhaps he's carrying a bag of groceries, and she's fumbling with her keys. Their eyes meet again, and she greets him with that same warmth, calm, slightly amused. "You're always in a hurry," she remarks again. But this time there's a subtle edge of exasperation, playful yet caring. He feels a flush creep up his neck. He tries to respond casually, but his words stumble, awkward and overthought. She tilts her head slightly, studying him with a faint smile, and that small gesture, the subtle arch of her brow, the soft weight of her gaze, makes him painfully aware of the gap between them. Her calm assurance and his tentative nervousness. There's a brush of skin. Maybe their hands touch briefly as she takes the grocery bag or passes him a small package. It's light, almost accidental, yet the contact lingers in both their minds. He notices the warmth of her hand, the faint scent of her perfume, subtle, floral, yet grounding. His pulse quickens, but he's careful not to let it show. Her tone shifts to gentle teasing. "You're making this harder than it should be," she says almost offhand, yet there's a depth in it, a recognition of his hesitation, a nudge towards something unspoken. For him, the words are magnetic. They simultaneously embarrass him and draw him closer. He realizes she's aware of the tension he's trying to suppress. Internally, he battles conflicting thoughts: admiration, desire, and self-consciousness. He wants to step closer, to say something meaningful, but social rules and his own caution hold him back. This restraint is part of the slow burn. The audience should feel the pull between them, the desire restrained by mutual awareness and subtlety. Visually and emotionally, the scene thrives on small gestures. She brushes a stray strand of hair from her face, and he catches a fleeting glimpse of vulnerability. She leans slightly closer when speaking, her voice soft yet confident, emphasizing the warmth in her presence. Their eyes meet for longer than necessary, yet neither moves forward too quickly. The scene ends with him walking away, replaying the moment in his mind. The hallways feel quieter, the air charged with unspoken possibilities. The audience senses both the tension and the anticipation, the what-if lingering in every glance and brush of skin. Deepen emotional connection by revealing vulnerability. Show that their relationship is more than physical attraction. It's emotional resonance, understanding, and the beginnings of trust. After a few encounters, circumstances bring them into a quieter, more personal space. Perhaps he's helping her with something at her apartment, or they sit together in a shared space like a balcony or small living room. This is the first moment where conversation moves beyond casual greetings, revealing glimpses of their inner worlds. It's early evening, and the room is bathed in warm, golden light filtering through the curtains. The young man notices the small details around her apartment: a book left open on the table, a vase with fresh flowers, a soft hum of music in the background. These details reflect her personality, lived in elegance, subtle creativity, and an openness that invites him in. They sit together on the couch, just far enough apart to feel comfortable, yet close enough that their knees brush lightly. Every small movement feels charged with unspoken meaning. He watches her adjust her cardigan, and she catches his gaze. Their eyes meet briefly, and there's a quiet acknowledgement. No words, just recognition of each other's presence. The conversation begins casually, but she gradually opens up. Perhaps she mentions a challenge at work, a personal anecdote, or a reflection on life. His responses are careful, attentive, sincere. He notices the softness in her voice, the way she hesitates before speaking, and the small gestures. Hands clasped loosely in her lap, a half-smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes, that hint at hidden vulnerability. At one point, a subtle touch occurs. Her hand brushes his as she reaches for a cup of tea. This light, almost accidental but electric. He doesn't pull away. Instead, he feels a grounding warmth, a quiet reassurance that she is present and aware of him. She notices the pause and smiles faintly, a mix of amusement and gentle acknowledgement. The young man begins to share small pieces of himself as well. A memory, a thought, or an admission he usually keeps to himself. The act of vulnerability is mutual, creating a fragile intimacy. The audience should sense that this exchange is far more impactful than any physical touch. It's emotional connection that lingers, palpable and real. The tension is subtle, slow-burning, and multi-layered. Every glance carries curiosity and restraint. The soft hum of ambient sounds, music, a passing car outside, their quiet voices, frames the intimacy. The warmth of proximity, the light brush of hands, and the shared laughter build layers of unspoken longing and emotional resonance. The scene closes on a lingering moment, their shoulders almost touching, eyes meeting in silent acknowledgement of the connection forming between them. The young man walks away with his heart heavier, thinking of her warmth, vulnerability, and the quiet thrill of being truly seen. Heighten romantic tension by exploring internal struggles and subtle external obstacles. Show that both characters desire connection but are restrained by self-doubt, societal expectations, and the age gap. After several moments of shared vulnerability, their interactions grow more frequent, yet tension arises from hesitations, misread signals, or unspoken boundaries. This is the point where the audience begins to feel the weight of what if and the delicate push-pull dynamic that will drive the slow burn. It's a late afternoon, and sunlight filters through half-closed blinds, casting striped shadows across the apartment floor. The young man finds himself helping her again, maybe fixing a leaky faucet, carrying boxes, or assisting with a minor household task. The air between them is warm but charged. There's an unspoken tension that neither wants to address directly. Every movement is conscious. Their hands brush, fleeting, almost accidental, yet both feel it more deeply than expected. He notices the softness of her fingers, the gentle pressure as she steadies an object, the way she leans slightly toward him while concentrating. His pulse quickens, but he forces himself to focus on the task, afraid that acknowledging his feelings might ruin the fragile ease they've built. She notices his hesitation. There's a subtle sigh, a tilt of her head, and a fleeting frown that quickly softens into a gentle smile. Her voice, calm and measured, carries a trace of frustration mixed with warmth. "You really are making this harder than it should be," she says again, this time with a quiet exasperation that hints at deeper feelings beneath her composed exterior. Internally, he battles a mixture of admiration, desire, and insecurity. He's hyper-aware of the age gap, of how others might perceive them, and of his own nervousness. The thought of moving too quickly, emotionally or physically, keeps him restrained. Yet every glance she gives, every subtle touch, draws him closer, creating a tension that feels almost unbearable in its quiet intensity. The room itself reflects their unspoken conflict. The warm, muted light highlights her expressions, the flicker of amusement, the brief shadow of worry in her eyes, the gentle softness of her smile. Ambient sounds, a passing car, the hum of the refrigerator, distant chatter from the street, frame the intimacy and amplify the tension, heighten romantic tension and bring underlying emotions to the surface. Show the first significant moment of emotional honesty and mutual awareness of attraction, without rushing intimacy. By now, their interactions have built up a slow, palpable tension. Circumstances force them into a situation that requires closeness. Perhaps she has a minor mishap at home, or they're caught in a quiet evening together. This is the moment where desire, hesitation, and care intersect. It's late evening, and the apartment is illuminated by soft, golden lamplight. Outside, the world is hushed. A quiet breeze moves through the partially open window, carrying the faint scent of evening air mixed with the subtle floral note of her perfume. The atmosphere is intimate, safe, yet tinged with anticipation. He's helping her with a minor task, maybe fixing a cupboard hinge, straightening books on a shelf, or picking up something she dropped. Their hands brush repeatedly, more intentionally than before, each contact carrying warmth and unspoken meaning. He notices the delicate curve of her wrist, the smoothness of her skin, the gentle pressure when she steadies his hand as he works. She laughs softly at his slight awkwardness, the sound lilting and genuine, and he finds himself momentarily lost in the tone, aware of the closeness between them. Her eyes hold his longer than necessary, and there's a flicker of vulnerability in the depth of her gaze. She steps just a fraction closer, not touching, but her presence presses against his awareness, drawing him in. Finally, words are exchanged that feel heavier than usual, not declarations but acknowledgments. She speaks first, voice low and calm. "I know you're trying not to make this complicated, but you don't have to fight it." The sincerity behind her words hits him with quiet force. He realizes she feels the same tension, the same pull, and that the unspoken attraction has been mutual all along. Internally, he battles the rush of desire against the caution instilled by their age difference and social norms. He wants to step closer, to reach for her hand, but he restrains himself, savoring the moment of connection that transcends physical action. Every glance, every brush of fingers, every shared breath is charged with unspoken longing. Visually and emotionally, the scene thrives on small, meaningful gestures. Their knees brush as they crouch side by side. A hand lingers on a shoulder, brief but grounding. They laugh at a shared, private joke, the sound echoing softly in the stillness of the room. The emotional climax is subtle, built on intense mutual awareness and vulnerability, not overt physicality. The audience should feel the tension, the anticipation, and the growing intimacy between them, the slow burn reaching its peak. The scene ends with a lingering pause, eyes locked, hearts racing silently, the air thick with possibility. There's no rush for resolution, only the shared acknowledgement that this connection is real, deep, and undeniable. Begin mutual acknowledgement of feelings, creating emotional satisfaction and warmth. Show that both characters are growing closer, emotionally and physically, while maintaining subtlety and YouTube-safe affection. After the emotional climax of Part 5, this part focuses on moments where they naturally express care and closeness. The tension softens into comfort and intimacy, allowing for gentle physical and emotional gestures that solidify their connection. It's early evening, and the apartment is filled with soft light, the warm glow of lamps and the fading hues of twilight outside. He's stopped by to help with something small, perhaps carrying groceries or tidying a room. The moment is casual, but there's an underlying significance. They are now aware of each other's feelings, and that knowledge lingers in every gesture. They sit together on the couch, closer than before. Her hand brushes lightly against his as she reaches for a cup of tea, and neither pulls away. The touch is subtle, but it carries reassurance, connection, and an unspoken invitation to be present. He notices the warmth in her touch, the softness of her fingers, and the quiet steadiness she exudes. His own hand hovers near hers, reluctant yet yearning to close the gap. Their conversation flows naturally, laughter mingling with tender pauses. They reminisce about small, shared moments. A hallway encounter, a misdelivered package, a fleeting glance. Each memory reinforces the bond forming between them. The young man is struck by how effortlessly she listens, how her eyes convey care and curiosity, and how her presence calms the restlessness in his heart. She leans slightly closer while speaking, her shoulder brushing his. There's a comfort in the proximity, a quiet intimacy that doesn't need words. He notices the subtle scent of her perfume, the soft timbre of her voice, and the gentle way she tilts her head when she smiles. These details deepen his awareness, making the moment feel rich and layered. A small, meaningful gesture occurs. Perhaps she rests a hand briefly on his arm while laughing at something trivial, or he lightly touches the back of her hand to guide her around a corner. These touches are gentle and affectionate, conveying care, reassurance, and emotional closeness without crossing boundaries. Internally, both characters feel a mixture of relief and anticipation. The tension from earlier parts softens into comfort, yet the underlying desire and emotional connection remain vibrant. The audience senses the shift. They are no longer hesitant strangers navigating attraction. They are two people slowly letting each other in, savoring the intimacy that has grown from trust and mutual understanding. The scene closes with a shared moment of quiet, lingering smiles, and easy conversation. Perhaps they sit together watching the fading light outside, shoulders brushing, hearts quietly aligned. The young man feels a warmth and contentment he hasn't experienced before, a sense that this connection, slow burning and cautious, has finally found its footing. Conclude the story with full emotional resolution, showing the characters acknowledging their feelings and embracing the connection they've carefully built. Provide warmth, intimacy, and closure while keeping the story YouTube safe. After the tender moments of Part 6, this final chapter brings clarity. Both characters understand the depth of their attraction and emotional bond. They move past hesitation and internal conflict, reaching a place of mutual comfort, trust, and subtle romance. It's a calm morning, the sunlight soft and diffused through the curtains, casting a golden glow across the apartment. The young man is there, perhaps visiting casually for coffee or just sharing a quiet moment. The room smells faintly of coffee and a lingering floral note from her perfume, subtle yet comforting. Everything about this morning feels gentle, intimate, and unhurried. They sit side by side on the small balcony or by a window, shoulders touching lightly. The warmth of proximity is soothing, a stark contrast to the nervous tension of earlier encounters. Their hands hover near each other, eventually brushing and intertwining naturally, a silent acknowledgement that they are both present and willing to be close. Conversation flows effortlessly. They talk about small, everyday things, but beneath the words is a shared understanding of everything unsaid. The attraction, the trust, the emotional journey that brought them here. Their laughter mingles easily, the pauses comfortable rather than awkward. He notices the subtle ways she moves, the tilt of her head when she smiles, the soft curve of her lips as she laughs, the gentle steadiness in her eyes that makes him feel truly seen. She leans slightly toward him, resting her hand on his knee or brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. These gestures are tender, deliberate, yet understated, communicating affection without words. He mirrors her subtly, placing his hand near hers, letting their fingers touch and linger. The physical closeness is safe, warm, and emotionally rich, a culmination of all the moments of tension, teasing, and vulnerability that led here. The dialogue is soft, honest, and unhurried. Perhaps she says with a gentle smile, "I'm glad we stopped making this so complicated." He responds with sincerity, acknowledging how much he's valued their connection and how much he looks forward to sharing more moments like this with her. The exchange is simple but layered with meaning. It's not about grand declarations, but about recognition, acceptance, and intimacy built slowly over time. Internally, both characters feel relief, joy, and quiet anticipation. They have crossed the threshold from longing and hesitation into emotional clarity. The audience senses that they are together emotionally and affectionately, without needing overt romantic displays. The scene closes on a lingering, peaceful moment. Fingers intertwined, shoulders brushing, smiles shared across soft sunlight. Perhaps they glance out at the world together, comfortable in each other's presence, hearts quietly aligned. The slow burn has reached its natural conclusion, satisfying, warm, and emotionally fulfilling. If this slow burn love story warmed your heart, make sure to hit like and subscribe for more age gap romances and heartfelt stories. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever felt a connection that was impossible to ignore?